What is going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. As you guys know, I've been going through a lot of healing, growing, transforming, learning, especially over the last year of my life. And it's been a wonderful, miraculous process, but there are things that I've realized that are very challenging about healing that others aren't very keen to talk about. And in today's video, I want to talk to you about one of these dirty secrets of healing that you're just gonna have to get used to and honestly just deal with if you want to make great change in your life, because with great change obviously comes some great disruption, and I think it's something that you deserve to be prepared for. Alright, so no more delaying. Let's talk about the dirty secrets, or the dirty secret of healing. When you start to heal, you're gonna grow. And when you grow, you change. Sometimes things, patterns, people, hobbies, things that you've always seen as permanent in your life, or maybe things that you've always seen as good and as beneficial and as adding value to your life. When you grow, you change. The entire mental model that you apply to the world, to the people in the world, to your thought processes and your actions and your motivations for engaging in certain behaviors, all of that has the potential to shift. And it doesn't mean that every single thing is gonna change, but my therapist describes it as when you start to heal, when you start to grow, the horizon literally looks different. Like, you're no longer looking at the same sky. You're no longer looking at the same world. And this dirty secret is twofold, because on one hand, once you start to see things, once patterns start to change for you, you cannot unsee that. There's not the old world to go back to anymore. It's kind of like the door closes behind you because you've evolved, you've grown, your soul has developed, and it understands that whatever was behind you no longer serves you. And that doesn't mean that the things that were in that previous world aren't going to meet you on this path, on this journey. Many of those things can probably still come along depending on, again, the role that they serve in your life and if there's still a purpose for them today. But the point is that the world that you knew, everything that you knew to get comfortable and familiar with you, your world, and your place in that world, it's uprooted, and it's up to you to turn yourself forward. So it's two-part. Part one is the fact that that whole world changes, and once you step through that door, the door closes. You can't even find the opening anymore. There's just nothing to go back to. There are things that, sure, out of nostalgia you might miss, but you just don't want that anymore because your soul has evolved and you've grown, and they don't interest you as much anymore. So you have to turn fully and confidently and just embrace the fact that everything is being uprooted. And sometimes that means that there's kind of like a big storm that's gonna plow through and just take out everything that you knew. And maybe some of those things were beautiful flowers, and they're things that you enjoyed visiting and spending time with, and so you could see this growth and this change as emptiness. But that's the beauty in it, because sometimes the world needs to clear out the path. The world needs to clear out everything that we knew about our life in order for the new things to grow and to bloom, for new seeds to be planted. And that growth takes time, like one of my favorite sayings that I've been accessing a lot recently is the flower does not bloom on the same day that it's planted, right? So you're gonna have to stare at what looks like empty dirt and soil for maybe a little while until you start to see where things are budding and blooming, and you use those as sort of like mental hooks to go deeper into certain areas, right? But part 2 of this is that you have to fully embrace that change, right? And so with that change, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, comes disruption. And it quite literally means that you could have had friendships that served you and brought you so much joy and were fun for you, right? Like, this doesn't need to affect necessarily just the negatives in your life, right? Like, it doesn't need to just be, oh, I've evolved and I've matured as a human being. The things that interested in me before, I realize now that they weren't serving me. They could have absolutely been serving you in that previous life that you were living, and they could have been positives in that life. But again, when we heal, we change, and that horizon changes, and so your perspective and your perception of these activities will change, and that puts you at risk of not liking the same things anymore, of not liking the same people anymore, of not wanting to do the same things with the same people. And that's a hard one, right? Like, that's a really big, dirty secret of healing, because how do you look somebody in the eye who you've spent a lot of time with, who is a close friend or maybe a significant other, and tell them that in all honesty and transparency? Spoiler, you probably shouldn't do that, because it's going to be really hurtful for them to just be so direct about it. But yeah, you're literally having a conversation in your head, which is something like, this person, look, I loved them and I enjoyed the time that I had with them, but they're not meant to come with me in this next stage of my life. And how do you turn to somebody who you've potentially had years-long relationship and connection to and just be like, hey, you're awesome and you were amazing for me back then, but you no longer serve me? Like, that can be really hard, and that can be a really hard loss to navigate and to make space for. And I don't know if there's a rule book or a guidelines for how to navigate that. It's gonna be messy, because growth is usually not linear. Growth is usually something like that. It goes up and down and it zigzags, and as long as you're somewhat on an upward trajectory, you're doing just fine. But it's hard. Healing is hard, and I don't think people talk about that enough. I don't think people like to talk about and be super transparent about how challenging healing can truly be. But again, it's kind of one of those things where the reward is in the challenge. You can't get all of the beauty and the joy and that blossoming of your soul without the hard things, because they come together. They're inextricably tied. What makes it beautiful in many ways is the depth in that entire experience, and depth in this instance is defined by the highs and the lows, the lefts and the rights. It's that 3-dimensional aspect of evolving and developing your soul, your mind, your connection to the universe. These things are complicated, they're complex, and they're messy. And I just want whoever watches this video to understand that healing is not linear. As long as we're healing forward, that's fine. And sometimes that's going to look like a sprint. Sometimes that's going to look like a crawl. And sometimes, if you're taking too long, the universe is like metaphorically going to kick you in the behind, and you're just going to stumble through the process that you need to go through anyway. And so just be mindful of that. And it's a beautiful process. I've never healed from something at the end and been like, oh, I still regret the fact that that person or that behavior is no longer in my life. But give yourself space and time to navigate those messy middle moments, because it is messy, it's complex, and it's not easy. It's beautiful, and at the end, you will likely be feeling so much better. But that doesn't mean that it's easy. So give yourself space to come to terms with that and to accept that and to embrace the fact that it's gonna be a lot, but you are also gonna be okay. with that being said, guys, I'm gonna wrap up the video here. If you like the video, then please drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to all of you in the next video. Bye.